The battle for the truth is a difficult one, often against very powerful enemies, but occasionally those who crusade for the truth may find themselves with unusual allies. Our Fair City by Robert Heinlein. Read by Karl. Pete Perkins turned into the all-night parking lot and called out, "Hi, Pappy." The old parking lot attendant looked around and answered, "Be with you in a moment, Pete." He was turning a Sunday comic sheet in narrow strips. Little whirlwind waltzed near him, picking up pieces of old newspaper and bits of dirt and flinging them in the faces of passing pedestrians. The old man had out with a long stream of the bunny-colored funny paper. "Here, kitten," he coaxed. "Come, kitten." The woman hesitated, then drew itself up until it was quite tall, jumped two parked cars, and landed near him. He seemed to sniff at the offering. "Take it, kitten," the old man called softly, and let the gay streamer strip from his fingers. The whirlwind whipped it up and round around its middle. It tore off another and yet another. The whirlwind wound them in a corkscrew through the loose mass of dirty paper and trash that constituted its visible body. Renewed by cold gusts that poured down the canyon of tall buildings, it swirled faster and ever taller, while it lifted the colored paper ribbons in a fantastic upspread hairdo. The old man turned, smiling. "Kitten does like new clothes." "Take it easy, Pappy. You'll have me believing in it." "Hey? You don't have to believe in Kitten. You can see her." "Yeah, sure, but you act as if it could understand what you say." "You still don't think so?" His voice was gently tolerant. "Now, Pappy." "Lend me your hat." Pappy reached up and took it. "Here, Kitten," he called. "Come back, Kitten." The whirlwind was playing around over their heads several stories high. It dipped down. "Hey, where are you going with that chapeau?" demanded Perkins. "Just a moment. Here, Kitten." The whirlwind sat down suddenly, spilling its load. The old man handed it the hat. The whirlwind snatched and started up in a long, fast spiral. "Hey," yelled Perkins, "what do you think you're doing?" "That's not funny. The hat cost me $6 only 3 years ago." "Don't worry," the old man soothed. "Kitten will bring it back." "She will, huh? More likely she'll dump it in the river." "Oh, no. Kitten never drops anything you just want to drop. Watch." The old man looked up to where the hat was dancing near the penthouse of the hotel across the street. "Kitten, oh Kitten, bring it back." The whirlwind hesitated. The hat fell a couple stories. He swooped, caught it, and juggled it reluctantly. "Bring it here, Kitten." The hat commenced a downward spiral, finishing in a long curving swoop. Hit Perkins full in the face. "She was trying to point on your head," the attendant explained. "Usually she's more accurate." "She is, eh?" Perkins picked up his hat and stood looking at the whirlwind, mouth open. "Convinced?" asked the old man. "Convinced? Oh, sure. He looked back at his hat and again at the whirlwind. "Pappy, this calls for a drink." They went inside the lot's little shelter shack. Pappy found glasses. Perkins produced a pint, nearly full, and poured 2 generous slugs. He tossed his down, poured another, and sat down again. "This first was in honor of Kitten," he announced. "This one's to fortify me for the mayor's banquet." Pappy clucked sympathetically. "You have to cover that?" "Had to write a column about something, Pappy." "Last night, his honor the mayor, surrounded by a glittering galaxy of hidebinders, grifters, sycophants, and ballot thieves, was the recipient of a testimonial dinner celebrating... Got to write something, Pappy. The customers expect it. Why don't I brace up like a man and go in relief?" "Today's column was good, Pete," the old man comforted him. He picked up a copy of the Daily Forum. Perkins took it from him and ran his eye down his own column. "Our Fair City by Peter Perkins," he read, and below that, "What, no horse cars? It is a tradition of our civic paradise what was once good enough for the founding fathers is good enough for us. We stumbled over the very pothole in which great Uncle Tozier broke his leg in '09. It's good to know that the bath water, running out, is not gone forever, but will return to the kitchen faucet, thicker, disguised with chlorine, but the same. Memo, His Honor uses bottled spring water. Must look into this. But I must report a dismaying change. Someone has done away with the horse cars. You may not believe this. Our perfect conveyances run so seldom and slow you may not have noticed it. Nevertheless, I swear I saw one wobbling down Granite Avenue with no horses of any sort. Seemed to be propelled by some newfangled electrical device. Even in the timing gauge, the changes are too much. I urge all citizens..." Perkins gave a snort of disgust. "It's tackling a pillbox with a pea-shooter, Tappy. This town is corrupt, and it'll stay corrupt. Why should I beat up my brains on such piffle? Hand me the bottle." "Don't be discouraged, Pete. The tyrant feels the laugh more than the assassin's bullet." Where'd you pick that up? Okay, so I'm not funny. I tried last time at the office and it hasn't worked. My efforts are about as pointless as the activities of your friend the whirling dervish. The windows rattled under a gusty impact. Don't talk that way about Kitten, the old man cautioned. She's sensitive. I apologize. He stood up and bowed towards the door. Kitten, I apologize. Your activities are more useful than mine. Turned to his host. Let's go and talk to her, Pappy. I'd rather do that than go to the mayor's banquet if I had my druthers. They went outside. Perkins running with the remains of the colored comic sheet. It began tearing off streamers. Here, kitty. Here, kitty. Soup's on. The woman bent down and accepted the strips as fast as they tore them. She still got the ones you gave her. Certainly, agreed Pappy. Kitten is a pack rat. When she likes something, she keeps it indefinitely. Does she ever get tired? Must be some calm days. Never really calm here. It's the arrangements of the buildings, and the way 3rd Street leads up to the river. I think she finds her pet playthings on top of buildings. Newspaper man peered into the swirling trash. Which is newspaper some months back? See, Pappy, I see a column on this. What about trash collecting service and how we don't clean our streets? I dig up some papers a couple of years old and claim they have been going around town since publication. Why fake it? Answered Pappy. Let's see what Kitten has. Whistle softly. Come, baby, let Pappy see your playthings. The whirlwind bulged out. Its contents moves less rapidly. The attendant plucked a piece of old newspaper from her in passing. This one's 3 months old. We'll have to do better than that. I'll try again. Restart and snatch another. Last June. That's better. A car honked for service and the old man hurried away. We returned. Perkins was still watching the hovering column. Any luck? Asked Pappy. She won't let me have them. Snatches them away. Naughty kitten, the old man said. Peter's a friend of ours. You be nice to him. The whirlwind fidgeted uncertainly. That's all right, Sir Perkins. She didn't know. But look, Pappy, see that piece up there, front page? You want it? Yeah, look closely. The headline reads Dewey something. You don't suppose he's been hoarding it since the 48 campaign? Could be. Kid's been around here as long as I can remember. I should just hoard things. Wait a second. He called out softly. Sure, the paper was in his hands. Now we'll see. Perkins peered at it. I'll be a short-time senator. Can you top that, Pappy? The headline read, Dewey captures Manila. The date was 1898. 20 minutes later, there was still concern here over the last of Perkins' bottle. Newspaper man stared at the yellowed, filthy sheet. Don't think he's been born around town for the last half-century. Why not? Why not? Well, I can see the streets haven't been cleaned in that time, but the paper wouldn't last. Sun and rain and so forth. Kitten is very careful of her toys. She probably put it on the cover during bad weather. For the love of Mike, Pap, you don't really believe what you do. Frankly, I don't care where she got it. The official theory is going to be this particular piece of paper kicking around the dirty streets, unnoticed and uncollected for the past 50 years. Boy, am I going to have fun. He rolled the fragment carefully and started putting it in his pocket. Say, don't do that, his host protested. Why not? I'm going to take it down and get a pic of it. You mustn't. It belongs to Kitten. I just borrowed it. Huh? Are you nuts? Should be upset if he doesn't get it back. Please, Pete, look at any time you want to. The old man was so earnest that Perkins stopped. Suppose you never see it again. My story hangs on it. It's no good to you. She has to keep it to make her story stand up. Don't worry. I tell her she mustn't lose it under any circumstances. Well, okay. They stepped outside and Pappy talked earnestly to Kitten, then gave her the 1898 fragment. She promptly tucked it in the top of her column. Perkins said goodbye to Pappy and started to leave the lot. He paused and looked around, looking a little befuddled. Say, Pappy. Yes, Pete? You don't really think that whirlwind is alive, do you? Why not? Why not? Why not, the man says. Well, said Pappy reasonably, how do you know you're alive? But, why, because well, now if you put it... He stopped. I don't know. You got me, pal. Pappy smiled. You see? I guess so. Good night, Pappy. Night, Kitten. He tipped his hat to the whirlwind. The column bowed. The managing editor sent for Perkins. Look, Pete, he said, chucking a sheaf of grey copy paper at him. Whimsy all right, but I'd like to see some coffee that wasn't dashed off in a gin mill. Perkins looked till the paper shoved at him. Our Fair City by Peter Perkins. Whistle up the wind. Walking our streets is always a piquant, even adventurous experience. We pick our way through the assorted trash, bits of old garbage, cigar butts, and otherwise appetizing items that stud our streets, or our faces are assaulted by more buoyant souvenirs, the confetti of last Halloween, sheds of dead leaves, and other items too weather-beaten to be identified. However, I always assumed that a constant turnover in the riches of our streets caused them to renew themselves at least every 7 years. The column then told the widow that complained to 50-year-old newspaper and challenged any other city in the country to match it. What's the matter with it? Demanded Perkins. Being a journal about the filth in the streets is fine, Pete, but give it a factual approach. Perkins leaned over the desk. Boss, this is factual. Huh? Don't be silly, Pete. Silly, he says. Look. Perkins gave a circumstantial account of Kitten in the 1898 newspaper. Pete, you must have been drinking. Only Java and tomato juice. Cross my heart and hope to die. How about yesterday? I'll bet the whirlwind came right up to the bar with you. I was cold stone. Perkins stopped himself and stood on his dignity. That's my story. Painted in front of me. Don't be like that, Pete. I know what's your job. I just want to call him with some meat. Dig up some facts on man hours and cost for street cleaning. Compare it with other cities. We'll read that junk. Come down the street with me. I'll show you the facts. Wait a minute. I'll pick up a photographer. A few minutes later, Perkins was introducing the managing editor and Clarence V. Weems to Pappy. Clarence unlimbered his camera. Take a pic of him? Not yet, Clarence. Pappy, can you get us Kitten to give us back the museum piece? Why, sure. The old man looked up and whistled. Oh, Kitten, come to Pappy. Above their heads a tiny gust took shape, picked up bits of paper and stray leaves, and settled on the lot. Perkins peered into it. She hasn't got it, he said in aggrieved tones. She'll get it. Pappy stepped forward so the whirlwind enfolded him. They could see his lips move, but the words did not reach him. Now, said Clarence. Not yet. The whirlwind bounded up and leaped over an adjoining building. The managing editor opened his mouth and closed it again. Kitten was soon back. She had dropped everything else and had just one piece of paper. The paper. Now, said Perkins, can you get a shot of that paper, Clarence, while it's in the air? Natch, said Clarence, and raised his speed graphic. Back a little and hold it, he ordered, speaking to the whirlwind. Kitten hesitated and seemed about to skitter away. Bring her around slow and easy, Kitten, Pappy supplemented. Turn over. No, not that way. The other edge up. The paper flattened out and slowly past them, the headline showing. Did you get it? Perkins demanded. Natch, said Clarence. Is that all? Yes, the editor. That's all. Okay, said Clarence, picked up his case and left. The editor sighed. Gentlemen, let's have a drink. 4 drinks later, Perkins and his boss were still arguing. Pappy had left. Be reasonable, boss, Pete was saying. You can't print an item about a live whirlwind. They'll laugh you out of town. Managing editor Gaines straightened himself. It's a policy of the firm to print all news and print it straight. Is this news? We print it. He relaxed. Hey, waiter. More of the same, and not so much soda. But it's scientific impossible. You saw it, didn't you? Yes, but Gaines stopped him. Well, ask the Smithsonian Institution to investigate it. They'll laugh at you, Perkins insisted. Ever hear of massive ptosis? No, that's no explanation. Clarence saw it too. What does that prove? Obvious. To be hypnotized, you have to have a mind. How do you know Clarence doesn't have a mind? Prove it. Well, he's alive. He must have some sort of mind then. It's just what I was saying. Whirlwind is alive, therefore it has a mind. Perkins, if those longbirds from the Smithsonian are going to persist in their unscientific approach, I, for one, will not stand for it. The forum will not stand for it. You will not stand for it. Won't I? Not for 1 minute. I want you to know the forum is behind you, Pete. You go back to the parking lot and get an interview with that whirlwind. But I've got one. You wouldn't let me print it. Who wouldn't let you print it? I'll fire him. Come on, Pete. We're going to blow this town sky high. Stop the run. Hold the front page. Get ready. He put on Pete's hat and strode rapidly into the men's room. Pete set himself at his desk with a container of coffee, a can of tomato juice, and the Midnight Final, late afternoon, edition. Under a full-column cut of Kitten's story with his column, boxed and moved to the front page. 18-point boldface ordered, see editorial page 12. On page 12, another black line adjoined it to see Arthur City, page 1. He ignored this and read, Mr. Mayor, resign. Pete read and chuckled. An ill wind, symbolic of the spiritual filth working the dark corners of the city hall. will grow to cyclonic proportions and sweep a corrupt and shameless administration from office. The editorial pointed the contract for street cleaning and trash removal was held by the mayor's brother-in-law. That suggested the Whirlwind could give better service cheaper. The telephone jingled. He picked it up and said, "Okay, you started it." "Pete, is that you?" Pappy's voice demanded. "They got me down at the station house." "What for?" "They claim Kitten is a public nuisance." "I'll be right over." He stopped by the art department, snagged Clarence, and left. Pappy was seated in the station lieutenant's office, looking stubborn. Perkins shoved his way in there. "What's he in for?" he demanded, jerking a thumb at Pappy. The lieutenant looked sour. "What are you bargaining for, Perkins? You're his lawyer." "Now," said Clarence. "No, Jack Clarence. For news of Dombrowski, I work for a newspaper, remember? I repeat, what's he in for?" Stretching an officer on the performance of his duty. "That's right, Pappy?" The old man looked disgusted. "This character," he indicated one of the policemen, "come up to my lot and tried to snatch the Manila Bay paper away from Kitten. Tell her to keep it out of his way. Wastes his stick at me and orders me to take it away from her. I told him what he could do with his stick." He shrugged, and here we are. "I get it," Perkins told him, and turned to Dombrowski. "You got a call from the city hall, didn't you? So you sent Dugan down to do the dirty work." "Well, don't get us why you sent Dugan. I hear he's so dumb you don't leave him collect the payoff on his own beat." "That's a lie," put in Dugan. "I do so." "Shut up, Dugan," his boss thundered. "Now see you, Perkins, you clear out. There ain't no story here." "No story," Perkins said softly. "The police force tries to arrest a Whirlwind. You say there's no story?" "Now," said Clarence. "Nobody tried to arrest no Whirlwind. Now scram." "Then how come you're charging Pappy with obstructing an officer? What was Dugan doing? Flying a kite?" "He's not charged with obstructing an officer." "He's not, eh? Just what have you booked him for?" "He's not booked. We're holding him for questioning." "So? Not booked, no warrant, no crime alleged. Just pick up a citizen and roust him around Escapo style." Perkins turned to Pappy. "You're not under arrest. My advice is to get up and walk out that door." Pappy started to get up. "Hey!" Lieutenant Dombrowski bounded out of his chair, grabbed Pappy by the shoulder, and pushed him down. "Give me the orders around here. You stay." "Now!" yelled Perkins. Clarence's flashbulb froze them. Then Dombrowski started up again. "Let him in here. Dugan, get that camera." "Yeah," said Clarence, and held away from the cop. They started doing a little maypole dance with Clarence as the flagpole. "Hold it," yelled Perkins. "Go ahead and grab the camera, Dugan. I'm just aching to write the story. Police lieutenant destroys evidence of police brutality." "What do you want I should do, Lieutenant?" pleaded Dugan. Dombrowski looked disgusted. "Sit down and close your face. Don't use that picture, Perkins. I'm warning you." "Of what? Gonna make me dance with Dugan?" "Come on, Pappy. Come on, Clarence." They left. "Our fair city," read the next day. "City Hall starts cleanup. While the city streets cleaners were enjoying their usual siesta, Lieutenant Dombrowski, acting orders of His Honor's office, raided our 3rd Avenue Whirlwind. It went sour, as Patrolman Dugan could not entice the Whirlwind into the paddy wagon. Dauntless Dugan was undeterred. He took a citizen standing nearby, one James Metcalf, parking lot attendant, in custody as an accomplice of the Whirlwind. An accomplice in what, Dugan didn't say. Everybody knows that an accomplice is something pretty awful. Lieutenant Dombrowski questioned the accomplice. See, cut, Lieutenant Dombrowski weighs 215 pounds without his shoes. The accomplice weighs 119. Moral, don't get underfoot when the police department is playing games with the wind. P.S. As we go to press, the Whirlwind is still holding the 1898 museum piece. Stop by 3rd and Main and take a look. Better hurry. Dombrowski is suspected to make an arrest momentarily. Pete's column continued needling the administration the following day. Those missing files. It's nice to know that any document needed by the grand jury is sure to be mislaid before it can be introduced in evidence. We suggested Kitten, our 3rd Avenue Whirlwind, be hired by the city as file clerk extraordinary, and was trusted with any item which was likely to be needed later. She could take the special civil exam used to reward the faithful, the one nobody ever flunks. Indeed, why wouldn't lower Kitten to a low-wage clerical job? She's persistent, she hangs on to what she gets. No one will argue she's less qualified than some city officials we have. Let's run Kitten for mayor. She's an ideal candidate, she has the common touch, doesn't mind hurly-burly, she runs around in circles, she knows how to throw dirt, and the opposition can't pin anything on her. As to the sort of mayor she would make, there's an old story. Aesop told it about King Log and King Stork. We're fighting with King Stork. King Log will be welcome relief. Memo to his honor. What did become of those Grand Avenue paving bids? P.S. Keaton still has the 1898 paper on exhibit. Stop by and see it before the police department figures out some way to intimidate a whirlwind. Pete snagged clearance and drifted down to the parking lot. The lot was fenced now. The man at the gate handed them 2 tickets but waved away their money. Instead, he found a large circle chained off for Kitten and Pappy inside it. They pushed their way through the crowd to the old man. Looks like you're coining money, Pappy. Should be, but I'm not. They tried to close me up this morning, Pete. Wanted me to pay the $50 a day circus and carnival fee and post the bond besides. So I quit charging for the tickets, but I keep a track of them. I'll sue them, by G. You won't collect them on this town. Never mind. We'll make them sworn so they lit up. That's not all. They tried to capture Kitten this morning. Huh? Who? How? The cops. They showed up with one of those blower machines used to ventilate manholes, rigged the one backwards, and to take a suction. The idea was to suck Kitten down into it, anyway, the gravity she was carrying. Pete whistled. Should have called me. Wasn't necessary. Warned Kitten she stashed the Spanish wallpaper someplace, and it came back. She loved it. She went through the machine about 6 times like a merry-go-round. She zipped through and come out more full of pep than ever. Last time through, she took Sergeant Jansel's cap with her, clogged the machine, and ruined his cap. It disgusted and left. Pete chortled. You still could have called me. Clarence should have gotten a picture of that. Got it, said Clarence. Huh? Then you were here this morning, Clarence. He didn't ask me. Pete looked at him. Clarence, darling, the idea of a newspaper is to print it, not to hide it in the art department. On your desk, Clarence. Oh. Well, let's move on to a less confusing subject, Pappy. I'd like to put a big sign right here. Why not? What do you want to say? Kitten for mayor. Whirlwind campaign headquarters. Stick a 24-sheet across the corner of the lot where they can see it both ways. Fits in with, company girls. The joker said toward the entrance. Sergeant Jansen was back. All right, he would say. Move on. Clear out of here. He and 3 cohorts were urging the specters out of the lot. Pete went to him. What goes on, Jensel? Jensel looked around. Oh, it's you, huh? Well, you two, we gotta clear this place out. Emergency. Pete looked back over his shoulder. Better get Kitten out of the way, Pappy, he called out. Now, Clarence. Got it, said Clarence. Okay, Pete answered. Now, Jensel, you might tell us what it is we just took a picture of so we can title it properly. Smart guy. You and your stooge better scram if you don't want your heads blown off. We're setting up a bazooka. You're setting up a what? Pete looked towards the squad car unbelievingly. Sure enough, 2 of the cops were unloading a bazooka. Keep shooting, kid, he said to Clarence. Nat, said Clarence. And quit popping your bubble gum. Now look, yes, I'm just a news body. What in the world is that thing? Stick around and find out, wise guy. He also turned away. Okay there, start doing it. Commence firing. One of the cops looked up. It was, Sergeant. I thought you used to be a Marine. At the Whirlwind, of course. Pappy leaned over Pete's shoulder. What are you doing? I'm beginning to get a glimmering, Pappy. Keep getting out of range. I think they mean to put a rocket shell through a gizzard. Might bust up her dynamic stability or something. Keep it safe. I told her to hide. This is crazy, Pete. That must be absolutely complete and teetotal nuts. Any law says a cop has to be sane to be in the force? What Whirlwind, Sergeant? The bazooka man was asking. Well, Anderson started to tell him, forcibly, then deflated when he realized that no Whirlwind was available. You wait, he told him. Turn to Pappy. You, he yelled. You chased away that Whirlwind? Get it back here. Pete took his notebook. This is interesting, Yancel. Is your professional opinion that Whirlwind can be ordered around like a trained dog? Is that the official position of the police department? No comment. You button up or I'll run you in. By all means. But you have to have Buck Rogers' cannon pointed so that after the shell passes through the Whirlwind, if any, it should end up just about the city hall. Is this a plot to assassinate his honor? He also looked around suddenly, then let his gaze travel an imaginary trajectory. Hey, you lugs, he shouted. Point this thing the other way. You want to knock off the mayor? That's better, Pete told the sergeant. Sergeant, now they have it trained on the First National Bank. I can't wait. Yes, look at the situation again. Point it where it won't hurt nobody, he ordered. Do you have to draw your thinking? But, Sergeant, well, you point it, we'll fire it. Pete watched them. Clarence, he said, you stick around and get a pic I'm loading it back on the car. It'll be in about 5 minutes. Peppy and I will be in a happy hour bar grill. Got a nice picture with the asshole's features. Natch, said Clarence. The next installment of Our Fair City featured 3 cuts and was headed Police Declare War on Whirlwind. Pete took a copy and set it for the parking lot and intended to show it to Pappy. Pappy wasn't there, nor was Kitten. He looked around the neighborhood, poking his nose in lunchrooms and bars. No luck. He headed back towards the foreign building, telling himself that Pappy might be shopping or at a movie. He returned to his desk, made a couple of false starts on a column for the morrow, crumpled them up and went to the art department. Hey, Clarence, have you been to the parking lot today? Nah. Pappy's missing. So what? Well, come along, we've got to find him. Why? But he came, lugging his camera. The lot was so distorted. No Pappy, no Kitten, not even a stray breeze. Pete turned away. Come on, Clarence. Say, what are you shooting now? Clarence had his camera turned up to the sky. Not shooting, said Clarence. Light is no good. What was it? Whirlwind. Huh? Kitten? Maybe. Here, Kitten. Come, Kitten. The whirlwind came back near him, spun faster, and picked up a piece of cardboard that dropped. It whipped around and learned heaven in the face. That's not funny, Kitten, Pete complained. Where's Pappy? The whirlwind settled back toward him. He reached again for the cardboard. No, you don't, he yelped, and reached for it too. The whirlwind beat him to it, carried it up 100 feet and sailed it back. The card caught him edgewise on the bridge of his nose. Quitten, Pete yelled. Quit the horsing around. It was a printed note about 6 by 8 inches. It was not going to be tacked up. There were small tears at all 4 corners. It read, The Ritz Classic, and under that, Room 213. Special occupancy $6, double occupancy $8. There followed a printed list of the house rules. Pete stared at it and frowned. Suddenly he chucked it back at the whirlwind. Kitten immediately tossed it back in his face. Come on, Clarence, he said briskly. We're going to the Ritz Classic, room 213. Natch, said Clarence. The Ritz Classic was a colossal flea bag, favored by the bookie and madams at 3 blocks away. Pete avoided the desk by using the basement entrance. The elevator boy looked up at Clarence's camera and said, No, you don't, Doc. No divorce cases in this hotel. Relax, says Pete. It's not a real camera. We peddle marijuana. That's the haymo. Why'd you say so? You're not carrying a camera. You make people nervous. What floor? 21. The elevator took him up non-stop and running other calls. That'll be $2. Special service. Well, what do you pay for the concession? Inquired Pete. You got a nerve to beef with your racket. They went back down a floor by stair and looked up room 213. Pete tried to knock cautiously. The door was locked. He knocked on it, no answer. He pressed an ear to it and thought he could hear movement inside. He stepped back, frowning. Clarence said, Just remember something, and trotted away. He returned quickly with a red fire axe. Now? He asked Pete. A lovely thought, Clarence. Not yet. Pete panted and yelled, Pappy, oh Pappy! A large woman in a pink cooey coat opened the door behind them. How expect a party to sleep, she demanded. Pete said, Quiet, man, we're on the air. He listened. This time there were sounds of struggling, then, Pete! Now, said Pete. Clarence started swinging. The lock gave up on the third swing. Pete poured in with Clarence after him. Collided with someone coming out and sat down abruptly. When he looked up, he saw Pappy on a bed. The old man was busily trying to get rid of a towel tied around his mouth. Pete snatched it away. Get him, yelled Pappy. As soon as I get you untied. I ain't tied. They took my pants. Boy, I thought you'd never come. Took Kitten a while to make me understand. I got him, announced Clarence, both of them. Where? Demanded Pete. Here, said Clarence proudly, and patted his camera. Pete restrained his answer and ran to the door. They went that way, said the large woman, pointing. He took out, skidded around the corner, and saw the elevator door just closing. Pete stopped, bewildered by the crowd just outside the hotel. He was looking around uncertainly when Pappy grabbed him. There, that car. The car Pappy pointed out was even then swinging out from the curb just beyond the rank of cabs in front of the hotel. With a deep growl, it picked up speed and headed away. Pete jacked open the door of the nearest cabbie. Follow that car, he yelled. They all piled in. Why? Asked the hack. Clarence lifted the fire axe. Now? He asked. The driver ducked. Forget it, he said. It was just a question. Started after the car. The hack driver's skill helped them in the downtown streets, but the driver of the other car strung right up on 3rd and headed for the river. They strained across it 50 yards apart with traffic snarled behind them. Then they're on the no speed limit freeway. The camera turned his head. Is the camera truck speeding up? What camera truck? Ain't this a movie? Good grief, no, that car is filled with kidnappers. Faster? A snatch? I don't want no part of it. He braked suddenly. Pete took the action part of the driver. You catch him. The hack speeded up again, but the driver protested. Not in this wreck. They got more power than me. Pappy grabbed Pete's arm. There's Kitten. What? Oh, never mind that now. Slow down here, Pappy. Kitten, oh Kitten, over here. The whirlwind slowed down and kept pace with him. Pappy called to it. Here, baby, go get that car. Up ahead? Get it. Kitten seemed confused, uncertain. Pappy repeated and she took off, like a whirlwind. She dipped and gathered a load of paper and trash as she flew. They saw her dip and strike the car ahead, throwing paper in the face of the driver. The car wobbled. She struck again. The car veered, climbed the curb, ricocheted against the trash rail, and fetched up against the lamp post. 5 minutes later, Pete, having left Kitten, Clarence, and the fire axe to hold the fort over 2 hoodlums suffering from abrasion, multiple contusions, and shock, was feeding a dime into a payphone in the nearest filling station. He dialed long distance. Give me the FBI's kidnap number, he demanded. You know, the Washington, D.C. snatch number. My goodness, the operator. Mind if I listen in? Give me that number. Right away. Presently, a voice answered. Federal Bureau of Investigation. Let me talk to Hoover. Huh? Okay, I'll talk to you. Listen, this is the snatch case. Got on ice for the moment, but unless you get one of your boys from your local office here pronto, there won't be any snatch case. No, city cops get here first. What? Pete quieted down and explained who he was, where he was, and the more believable aspects of the events that had led up to the present situation. The government cut on him as he was urging speed and more speed, sure the local office was already being notified. Pete got back to the wreck just as Lieutenant Bobrovsky climbed out of his squad car. Pete hurried up. Don't do it, he yelled. Big Hop hesitated. Don't do what? Don't do anything. FBI on the way now and you're already implicated. Don't make it any worse. Pete pointed to the 2 hoodlums. Clarence was sitting on one, resting the spike of the axe against the back of the other. These birds have already sung. This town's about to fall apart. If you hurry, you might be able to get a plane for Mexico. Dombrowski looked at him. Wise guy, he said doubtfully. Ask him. They confessed. One of the hoods raised his head. We was threatened, he announced. Take a minute or two, and they assaulted us. Go ahead, Pete said cheerfully. Take us all in, together. You won't be able to lose that pair before the FBI can question them. Maybe you can cop a plea. Now? Asked Clarence. Dombrowski swung around. Put that axe down. Do as he says, Clarence. Get your camera ready to get a picture as the G-Men arrived. Didn't stand for no G-Men. Look behind you. A dark blue sedan slid quietly to a stop, and 4 lean, brisk men got out. The first of them said, Is there anyone here named Pete Perkins? Me, said Pete. Mind if I kiss you? It was after dark, but the parking lot was crowded and noisy. A stand for the new mayor and distinguished visitors had been erected on one side. Opposite was a bandstand. Across the front was a large illuminating sign. Home of Kitten, honorary citizen of our fair city. In a fenced-off circle in the middle, Kitten herself bounced and spun and swayed and danced. Pete stood on one side of the circle with Pappy opposite him. At 4-foot intervals around it, children were posted. All set? Called out Pete. All set, answered Pappy. Together, Pete, Pappy, and the kids start showing serpentine into the ring. Kitten swooped, gathered arms up, and wrapped them around herself. Confetti! Yelled Pete. Each of the kids dumped a sackful towards the whirlwind. Little of it reached the ground. Balloons! Yelled Pete. Lights! Each of the children started blowing up toy balloons. Each had about a dozen different colors. Fast they were afraid to defend them by Kitten. Floodlights and searchlights came on. Kitten was transformed into a fountain of boiling, bubbling colors, several stories high. Now, said Clarence? Now. The end.